In the era of rapid cosmic discoveries, it sometimes seems to us that we know almost everything about our universe. But this is far from the case. Moreover, some facts that we have always taken for truth are not, which is already a scientific fact little known to the general public. What secrets has the universe revealed to us? What is the real face of space? Surely you've seen Star Wars or other sci-fi movies where spaceships epically explode in space and burn to the ground. In reality, nothing like this could happen in outer space. There is no oxygen, which means that some object cannot simply take and burst into fire, just as there cannot be an explosive wave. What disappointment! Here is our sun, but what new can we learn about it? What if we told you that it really is so and not so? And yes, you can say that the real color of the sun is green, but why in all the pictures it is orange, yellow, red, white but not green at all? We already know that the color spectrum can determine the temperature of a star. Simply put, each color has a certain wavelength, which come from the luminary. The coldest stars are red, and the hottest and bluest blue our sun. Most of the waves emit in the greenish spectrum, but it emits waves of a different length. This is why we see a mixture of colors that turns into white light. In many images, the color of the sun may be different. For example, our main star generally appears yellow when viewed from the International Space Station, because waves close to the blue spectrum are scattered by the atmosphere of our planet. In reality, the sun cannot be yellow, except in children's drawings, because in this case our planet would be a desert, inhospitable place outside the habitable zone of the solar system. And the reason for this is that the yellow sun has those, which would be about 800 degrees Celsius lower. Have you ever wondered how the sun stays so hot? Of course, it is not as powerful as before, but still the scorching destructive on the sun does not occur. The burning process itself, because this requires a huge amount of oxygen, which is almost absent. The sun is mostly composed of helium and hydrogen. Rather, it is an ideal environment for the formation of nuclear reactions thanks to them. The main star, so hot as you know, Mercury, is the closest planet to the sun. It turns out that she is the hottest. It's not that simple. Of course, the conditions on this planet are far from a resort. But the title of the hottest planet is Venera, the second most distant planet. The temperature of Mercury during the day is 430 degrees Celsius, and that of Venus is 475. Why is this happening? The thing is, Venus is pretty flat. Mercury has no atmosphere. Dangerous. There may be not only the sun but also the asteroid belt. If a spaceship gets there, its captain needs to be a master of his craft to avoid a collision with one of the asteroids. Is that right? But no. And again, films about space form a complex picture for us. No, of course not. In the asteroid belt there are trillions of objects of different sizes. Many of them can easily crush a hypothetical spaceship. But this is very unlikely, all because they are separated from each other by a very huge distance. So you can cross the asteroid belt and never meet a Samister at all. Usually, the distance between asteroids is more than twice the distance between the Earth and the Moon. Is it not as epic as we imagined? The asteroid belt will move a little closer to our planet, but have you thought about how many stars we observe in the night sky? It seems that there are an infinite number of them, and it is simply impossible to know exactly how many there are. However, scientists from Harvard University accepted the challenge and found that from Earth, without using a telescope, we can see 110 stars. Now let's talk about the entire solar system. We know that planets rotate in orbit and around their axis. However, you should know that the system itself revolves around the center of the Milky Way. It makes full revolutions in just 230 million years. Just imagine the last time when the Earth was in the same place where it is now. Dinosaurs walked on it and it was still very far before the birth of humanity. What if we told you that all the planets don't actually revolve around the sun? Of course, the sun can be considered the center of the planetary system. However, everything is not so simple here. Scientists have found that the orbital rotation of the planets occurs around the so-called the center of mass of the solar system, or simply the center of gravity. It is in some cases in the middle of the object, providing a balance of mass and gravity, and most often the center of mass does not coincide with the sun. In the case of the Earth, the barycenter almost coincides with our luminary. But in the case of, say, Jupiter is displaced by about 55,000 kilometers. And what will happen to a person if he is thrown into outer space without a special suit? Most obviously, he will simply lose consciousness in the first 15 seconds due to lack of oxygen. Then within a few minutes the organs will cease to function and all inevitable death. And there is also the risk that the human body would just start to swell, turning into a ball, all because of nitrogen bubbles that will start to appear in our blood. By the way, the threat of freezing would be small, since in the vacuum of space these processes occur very slowly. We have not yet told you that there is no temperature in outer space. We cannot even say that space is cold. Temperature is determined by how much energy the particles release and how fast they move. In a vacuum, particles cannot move. Accordingly, we cannot in this case talk about such a concept as temperature. Unfortunately, or happiness, space is not an absolute vacuum. In some regions of it there are, for example, the same stars whose particles radiate heat. As you know, there is no sound in space, it only screams silence. But this is not entirely true. Indeed, the particle is too far apart for the sound to travel a sufficient distance. But there are still objects in space that have enough particles to propagate the sound. Here, for example, is the sound of a cloud of hot gas that is around black holes in a galaxy cluster, Perseus. Our universe is full of mysteries. Sometimes we think we have solved some of them. However, time shows that this is not the case. And which of the facts struck you the most? Well, Earthlings, this is not the end of the video. There are still very interesting and simple things ahead of us. Fantastic releases, but so that I can continue to delight you with all the persols of the universe, I need feedback. You can express it quite simply. You just need to put an electronic like under this video, because we simply do not have other likes. And continue the phrase, here's a fact. The way you make it clear that we are moving in the right direction. Don't switch.